today. My name is Casey Marquette, and I have the pleasure of serving as the CEO of Covenant Technologies. We specialize in providing top-notch executive level, contract, and full-time IT and cybersecurity talent, ensuring they have the skilled professionals they need to drive success, innovation, and security in today's complex digital landscape. I'm particularly excited about today's guest. Joining us on the stream is none other than Elton Morrison, the head of cloud security at Cognizant, a company at the forefront of digital innovation and security solutions. In his role, Elton leads a team of dedicated professionals who navigate the intricacies of cloud security, one of the most pivotal areas in today's tech environment. Before we start, I'd like to extend my deepest gratitude to Elton for joining us today and sharing his invaluable insights on his experiences with Covenant. So without further ado, let's dive right into our conversation. Welcome, Elton.
Thank you, Casey, for that great introduction. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. It's great to see you. First question, can you share your overall experience with Covenant? What aspects of their services stood out to you the most?
Yeah, so the overall experience for me, as you mentioned, Cognizant is a really large company, and cloud security really is one of those high demand areas in today's world, right? I mean, they're getting snatched up as very, very quickly. They're in high demand. The skill sets in some cases are hard to find as well. So when we engage Covenant to help fill some roles on our team, the first thing that really stuck out and really kind of impressed me was just the overall process itself, how Covenant goes about finding their talent and then presenting that talent to the customers that they work with. For me in particular, the portal that they use was quite unique. It was kind of a one-stop shop for all the information needed for a particular candidate. You could go and look at resumes. You could look at the pre-screening questions that were done by the recruiters within Covenant. And then you could also use the chat area to communicate with other members of my team that did interviews as well as the Covenant team. So I think that really helped streamline the process and move it forward very quickly. So that's one of the first things that really stuck out to me and I think was a differentiator as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Elton. And yes, we get a lot of compliments on the portal. and honestly, that came from one of my very first clients.
Yeah.
They asked for it. We went out and made it happen. So thank you for that. Next question. In what ways did Covenant demonstrate a genuine understanding of your job requirements during the recruitment process?
Yeah, that's another excellent question. And again, somewhere where I think Covenant was somewhat unique in their approach. First and foremost, the folks at Covenant, and yourself included, Casey, you've worked in the industry. So you have a unique perspective on cybersecurity and what leadership looks for, what talent should be doing, what skills the talent should have for particular areas. So I think that, was probably the primary thing at first that really drove that distinction for me. The second is the meetings you had with my team and the Covenant team that came in and, hey, we have the job description. Let's go beyond the job description and see, all right, what is the culture like at Cognizant? What does your team culture look like? What are you really expecting this person to do? What is the day-to-day work life going to be for this individual? So you really went beyond just the job description, just the skill set that's needed to understand the team dynamics, understand the culture of the company for which this person will be coming into. I think that's a huge differentiator as well because, there's a saying, people don't leave companies, they leave cultures, right? So understanding the culture of the company that they're going to be working for as well as the team for which they'll be interacting with, I think is often overlooked in other areas. So I really think that was a key part of it as well.
Excellent and well said. Thanks, Elton.
Thank you.
How did Covenant ensure effective communication between you, the candidate, and themselves during the placement process? Can you provide an example of how this streamlined communication benefited you?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, there's the standard communication paths, right? Email. I have to say personally, I loathe email sometimes. Just if we get too much of it, it's non-trackable. You can't put metrics against it. You lose things in email. But obviously, email communications was part of it. But I'm going to go back to that portal, right, for Covenant. I think that was really what streamlined it. It brought everything together. I could see the comments from my senior team members and technical leads that did interviews. I could see comments from the Covenant team and what they had done with this individual. Also for the candidate, they were able to, provide feedback on there as well. Obviously our views were different. They weren't seeing all the comments, but I think that brought together all the various aspects of the hiring process, whether it was the candidate's resume, work experience, again, the communications back and forth. For me, it's the portal. I think that is somewhat unique in the industry and not something I've seen in other places. I've seen attempts at it, but it doesn't work as smoothly as what Covenant has. And I think the chat feature that's on the right-hand side there was just phenomenal. So it's almost instant feedback. The Covenant team was very responsive when I asked a question or put in a comment or said, hey, I can't make this interview later today because of X, Y, Z. Obviously, sometimes Cognizant, we get rather busy and things pop up. As with any, leadership position that happens, they were very quick to, respond via that chat. So I think that's really the key.
Excellent. Next, were there any unique or exceptional services offered by Covenant that you believe set them apart from other staffing agencies or recruitment firms you may have interacted with in the past?
Yeah, I touched on this in a previous response as well. I don't know, it's not necessarily a service, right? But I just think Covenant goes out and looks for people that have worked in the industry. That's who's recruiting these folks, right? So Covenant is really staffed with folks that have worked in the cybersecurity industry. So they have a very unique perspective. They're very keen on the trends in cybersecurity today. You mentioned cloud security. That's something that came up over the last few years. Although cloud's been around, it became a very hot commodity in the last 5 to 6 years. Now we've moved into a new technology, generative AI, right? So now my team is focusing on that. And what I love about Covenant, too many C's, right? Cognizant, Covenant. What I loved about Covenant was their just unique perspective because of their industry experience, whether it's advisory boards with key, chief security officers in the area, in the industry, right? So it's not necessarily a unique service. I just think it's the skill set and mindset and just the way that Covenant operates and brings in who they bring in to do the work, I think that's what's unique. So I wouldn't call it a service. I think it's more the culture of Covenant itself, right?
Perfect. Yeah, that makes total sense. And lastly, Elton, Covenant operates in a very competitive market. In your opinion, what sets Covenant apart from its competitors, and what unique advantages do you see the company leveraging in the future?
Yeah. So again, I'm probably going to repeat some of the things I've said previously, but they're important, right? So number one, I think going beyond the job description, as I mentioned before, looking at the culture of the company, the culture of the team, what day-to-day life is going to be like. I also think the way that Covenant screens their candidates, they take input from the teams for which they'll be working. For example, when my team was engaged and we were looking for resources, we helped kind of build what are you looking for? What kind of questions would you ask this person to really screen them? And that was really used to help weed out a lot. So the candidates we got were all quality candidates day one, and allowed us to fill these roles that we had open within 2 to 3 weeks, which previously would take months, if not 6 to 7 or 8 months to get a candidate in the building. So that was great. And I've talked a lot. Could you repeat that question one more time? Make sure I answered.
Yeah, no problem, Melton. And you touched on one of our core values, which is not just quality, but sense of urgency.
Right.
Moving. We've got something called a fast track guarantee. And right now we're hitting that 100% of the time. I measure it obsessively. But basically, after a job intake call, first quality candidate within 3 to 5 days.
Yep.
2 more quality candidates the next 5 days, which that really doesn't happen. But we also measure quality. So of the candidates we submit, how many get an interview, how many get offers. So we're doing a really good job on that fast track guarantee. And I think it's so important because if you look at the average time to fill cyber positions, we're blowing it out of the water. So but to repeat the question, Covenant operates in a competitive market. In your opinion, what sets Covenant apart from its competitors, and what unique advantages do you see the company leveraging in the future?
So the last part of that, unique advantages that, things that Covenant could leverage in the future. Again, I think staying on top of the industry is going to be key. Generative AI has exploded, right? Chat GPT is everywhere. You can't go onto a news site or listen to the news without hearing a story about AI, whether it's going to take over the world and turn into Terminator, or how it's going to make people lose their jobs just because of the automation, or what the middle part of that where, no, how can we use this to improve our lives, right? So AI is everywhere. I think that's an area that Covenant needs to leverage and look at. How can we leverage this technology to improve our interview processes? How can we use this technology to screen our candidates, get even better quality candidates? Using that technology to improve what you're doing from a recruitment standpoint. I mean, you can't go on a website nowadays without, hey, ask Cindy or ask Dave or whatever it is, right? You're interfacing with that type of technology. And I think that's definitely something that Covenant can leverage and help improve what they're doing, even beyond what they're doing today.
Absolutely, Elton. And we're already on it. We're evaluating some just really amazing technologies to really streamline and reduce cycle time even further, get candidates to clients quicker, but also quality. Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes AI knows cybersecurity better than recruiters.
Yeah. And the other thing to consider in that generative AI space is the models that are being used. Up to what date have those models been trained? So those are key aspects of it as well. Also, how you interact with that model, making sure that the data that you're interacting and using to interact with that model stays within your boundary, right? Within your space, so you're not losing proprietary data as well. So it's a fascinating technology, and I think that's an area that it's going to explode even more than it has in the last 2 months, 6 weeks. That's definitely something that Covenant should leverage.
Yeah, that's so interesting because actually this morning, so the SEC SK item 106 regulation came out yesterday. And so I was chatting with ChatGPT and asking it some questions. And to your point, it said, basically my learning is up till, I think, September 2021 or something.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. So it wasn't familiar with the yesterday ruling.
Exactly.
But yeah, so very interesting. Well, Elton, I really want to thank you for your time. Thank you for being such an ambassador of the company and for your business.
Thank you very much, Casey. It's been a pleasure anytime.